Hello and welcome to another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today is Stephen Smith. He is Scout Executive for the Boy Scouts, the Connecticut Rivers Council, so we'll meet him when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today, first timer on the show, his name is Stephen Smith. He's Scout Executive for Boy Scouts, the Connecticut Rivers Council. First of all, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you.
Okay, Boy Scouts. We've all heard, lots of us have been in the Boy Scouts when we were younger, but the Connecticut Rivers Council. But let's give a sort of a very generic and basic description of the Boy Scouts and the organization and what it represents.
The Boy Scouts are primarily a character-building organization for boys and girls between the ages of 18 and 21. The Cub Scout program would be our entry point, and that's for the 1st through 5th grade boys. Boy Scouts starts at 5th grade and goes up through graduation, and that's a strictly boy program also. Then we have a program called Venturing, which is for both boys and girls, starts at age 14 and goes on up to 21 also.
Well, I want to so many questions, but how far back was it that girls started to be allowed into certain Boy Scout activities in the organization?
Actually, into the 60s.
Is that right?
It was
really?
about 68
Wow.
that we have a program called Exploring, which is job shadowing type thing,
right.
and career development, and you would see it more in law enforcement and fire explorers, and the girls were allowed into that program very early on and have been with us ever since.
Did women or girls in general express an interest in wanting to be involved? Is that why it kind of evolved into that?
That's a lot of where the girls come to our program, is they want to do more of the high adventure, the backpacking, the whitewater rafting, that type of thing, and that's where we feel really fit a need that they've got.
Now, how about why would a girl, Girl Scouts exists, and I know the organizations aren't affiliated or anything, but why would they opt to be in this organization as opposed to doing theirs?
It's kind of like Boy Scouts. They follow the perfume and the gas smell.
That's true.
And girls follow the Boy Scouts to be a part of that program, but a lot of it is it's a whole lot more challenging physical experience.
Right, and yeah, so some may desire that kind of adventure and excitement and challenge, really.
Absolutely.
So Boy Scouts has been around forever, it seems. And did it start out, how did it start out? Was it sort of different? It obviously has evolved certainly from what it is now, but did it start out in a very different way back in its humble beginnings?
Actually, it was started in 1910 in the United States. Originally it was started in England, but it was primarily at that time to teach boys to be good men, to be a role modeling organization, and really teach men, young boys, how to be good men and good leaders.
And it's evolved into what it is today, so much more, really.
It has.
I mean, that's still the core foundation and sort of the mantra, but there's so much more that the Boy Scouts is these days.
We still have our core values of citizenship training, mental and personal fitness, leadership training. That's still the core of where we are. But the program's changed over the years. In the old days, you'd be putting maps down on the desk now and a compass and working your way through the topography and things like that. Now we're using GPS and geocaching and
so much,
all of that. Yeah.
Can you be a Boy Scout and be out there with your iPhone? Is that even allowed?
Yes,
oh,
absolutely.
It is? Yeah, because it's got the apps on there. Yeah.
We've got the Scout Handbook is an app now that you can look at it. Literally, a lot of our leader books are now apps that you can get. Our new camp that we're building in West Virginia right now is all set up. AT&T is one of the major sponsors there. But the kids, as they walk around with their iPhones or whatever, the leaders are going to be able to track where they are so they can keep track of them in the camp.
A kid doesn't want to be without his phone in a lot of cases, so it actually is a beneficial for the Scout leaders to be able to keep an eye on them that way.
Texting, Twittering, all of it. That's at the Jamboree. I was one of the sub-camp directors at the last Jamboree, and the week before we were all set and all the cell service was working just fine.
Oh, no.
When the kids moved in and they started Twittering back and forth and IMing, it just slowed the system down dramatically.
If you can't have
yeah.
Facebook out at a jamboree, what's the point of it, really?
There
right?
you go. And they're all sending notes back to their parents
Yeah.
and friends of what they're doing and how they're doing it. So
That's great.
it's really
And pictures
changed.
too. I mean, with the phones, you can take pictures and just see
Absolutely.
what's going on,
Yeah.
and video for that matter too. What is the percentage of kids that go through the Boy Scouts organization that will last and make it to the Eagle Scout?
2%.
2%
is the Eagle Scout. But we kind of look at the entire organization as a whole of they're the 2% club, and there's 98% of the kids that we truly affect into
Yeah.
what we do and teach them those values that we want taught.
Now, what do you have to do to be an Eagle Scout? Be a certain age, go through certain...
No, age is not a qualifier.
Okay.
You're in the Boy Scout program, and then you work through your ranks from tenderfoot to Eagle, and there's various steps along the way. Some dealing with first aid, some doing with citizenship training of attending council meetings and or sending your view to congressmen or senators, and there's all different things. And then the final steps are an Eagle Scout project where the boy will plan a complete project for the community, giving back, whether it's erecting something in a park or cleaning up something or doing a major project from taking a daycare and gutting it out at a church.
Wow.
And completely rebuilding it.
So becoming an Eagle Scout, it's a big deal because there's some tasks that have to be completed to get to that.
There's a lot of leadership
Yeah.
skills that come into effect, and sometimes the projects will actually, when they finish them, they may only last a couple of hours, but the youth may have spent up to 4 or 5 months planning it
Yeah.
for the actual execution of the event.
Now, in this day and age, there are so many more other things to do, whether it's other outdoor activities, sports, other organizations, but also kids have a tendency to sit at their computer or the TV or playing video games and stuff.
Sure.
Are kids still interested in being in the Scouts, even at the Cub Scout level, and things are still going well?
You bet.
Yeah.
We're really getting more and more of the kids of getting them out. And we've got a new program called Scout Strong, which is really hitting on the get off the couch and get outside and be a part of the community. And that's a lot of what we do. Camping's there, but camping teaches so many things.
Right. And that has always been there with the Scouts too.
Absolutely.
Right.
And camping's a tool to
Right.
get to where we need to go with the kids, of teaching them leadership skills, where you take a 13-year-old boy and say, okay, you're going to control and manage these 6 other Scouts, of getting a campsite set up and actual feeding yourselves and things like that. And that's how those leadership skills are taught. It's actually almost a chemistry set where you're putting together all different types of kids and expecting an outcome out of it.
Now, how often do the kids do that as far as the camping and the outdoor stuff? As we tape this, it's the middle of the summer.
Sure.
But can it go like right through the fall?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They'll be camping all through the winter.
In the winter too?
Yeah.
Okay.
They generally, the more active troops will camp at least once a month, and then during the summer they will go out 1, 2, sometimes 3 weeks at a shot and do different experiences.
Now, do you find, I'm just curious as the demographic and makeup of the kids that participate within the Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts. Are they typical suburban kids? Are there some inner city kids? Is it a nice cross section of people? How does that work?
We really have all.
Yeah.
Our inner city program, and it actually ties into an event that we're doing in September on the 29th, where we're rappelling off the side of a building. It's a 17-story building, and we're taking kids down the side of it rappelling.
Wow.
And they're inner city kids that are
It's
part
like an
of
amusement
that.
park, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And for the older people that are listening, it would be like an e-ticket at Disneyland.
Right.
It's that ultimate experience. But when you're standing on top of some of the tall buildings in Hartford looking over the river, there isn't a better experience. Or for the other kids that are out backpacking in the Rockies, of looking down from an 11,000 peak, it's the ultimate lifetime experience.
Wow, that's great. And you know, being in Connecticut, I mean, it's rural. You know, it's not New York.
It is.
I mean, we have our cities, but there's plenty of places to go and be. And the camping isn't necessarily even done in Connecticut. You go elsewhere for that too. Right?
All over. We
Yeah.
have a sea base actually down in Florida, down near the Keys, and we send the kids out on 45-foot sailboats, and they go sailing and snorkeling and learn all those skills while they're there. We've also got a canoe base up in northern Minnesota The big camp that we've got is Philmont that most people will hear about, and that's out in New Mexico where it's backpacking in the Rockies.
That's great. Now you talked about participation being up, kids more than ever want to be involved in the Scouts. How about Scout leaders? How about adults? Are they wanting to be involved, Scout?
Yeah, we have over 10,000 leaders right now in our council, and we're one of 4 councils in Connecticut, but we've got almost 30,000 kids in our program just in our area, and we cover 127 communities in Connecticut. But yeah, we're always looking for more leaders and to be a part of, and both male and female.
Right. So Connecticut's Rivers Council, you said there are 4 councils in the state. You are the Scout Executive for Connecticut Rivers Council. What does that cover as far as the state?
We cover from Rhode Island west across the entire northern boundary or border to New York. Then we come down about halfway to the state, almost straight down Highway 91, and then back across.
And the others have their own little sections of the state?
Yeah, Milford is actually the other part, and they kind of cover primarily the rest of the western part of the state down.
Right.
Then there's a smaller council in Derby, and then one in Greenwich.
Now, do you agree, or do you like the way that the council borders are set up, or should it be split more evenly, or should there be more councils added to the state?
Actually, this state, and I don't know how many other councils were there, but there's been 12 mergers to form our council. So there's been a lot of downsizing through the years to make the council that exists now, and that's been something the Boy Scouts have always been conscious about, is how do we get the most bang for our buck with our donors.
Well, since you mentioned it, we are in this economy that we're in. How does that affect the Boy Scouts in any way as far as participation, ability to be able to do things? How does it work?
It's tough. Our camperships that we provide for kids, our requests to share were for over $105,000. And that's a lot of kids that need help this year.
Yeah.
And we were able to fund most of that, so we're feeling really good about that.
That's good. Let's give people a website so that they can go to, and then we'll get back to more chatting about the Boy Scouts.
Okay. It's ctrivers.org.
All right, simple. And then they can go there and they can click on the appropriate, for
programs,
right, and everything. Let's take a short break and come back. Stephen Smith is Scout Executive for the Connecticut Rivers Council of the Boy Scouts. I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Stay with us. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today is Stephen Smith. He's a Scout Executive for Boy Scouts, the Connecticut Rivers Council. When we went into the break, I had you mention the website. What's on the website for people to go to and learn and see?
Actually, it's a huge open book to what we are. We'll go through how to join all of the different programs that we have. It's got a portal for donations if you'd like to do anything online. If you want to take a look at some of the programs that the council provides or the camps, it lists all of the programs. You can do all of your registration online. So one of the things that we got changed this year is you don't have to commute to Hartford to register anymore. You can do it right online.
That's a big help and a big convenience, right?
It is.
And I'm sure that just like everybody else these days, you're involved with social media, so I'm sure there are links there for
we're
all that
on
Facebook.
Twitter, we're on Facebook.
Yeah, you have to be.
Yep.
Especially with an organization that has kids, that's for sure, right?
Yes.
Over the years, people remember and have earned certain merit badges during their time in the Scouts in some way. Is there anything new? Is there anything changed with that?
Yeah, we've got merit badges like in cinematography. We've got them in computers. We're doing a neat thing right now. They're doing merit badges of the past.
Oh, no kidding.
And they brought in like automotive mechanics, but the big one this year that we're doing in some of our camps is welding.
Wow.
And it was just something that was dropped off. For years, they had kept the merit badges at a certain level.
In other words, you couldn't earn more than X amount?
No, they only had, I think it's 110.
Okay.
And they would rotate them in and out based on the popularity of what our Scouts wanted.
Right.
Now they've pretty much opened it up and said, sky's the limit. We've added whitewater rafting is coming in, kayaking and that type of thing. Cinematography and computers are in there. Photography's gone from create a black or a dark room to the how do you work with digital photography and things like that.
See, it's how things have, technology advances and evolves, and and you know what people do to earn merit badges, it evolves too. The
Yes.
sign of the times, right?
Yeah.
Can anybody possibly get them all now, especially if you've opened it up?
There still are
Yeah.
scouts that do that, that you'll see news reports every once in a while that so-and-so's earned all 120, 130
Wow.
merit badges.
Wow.
And it's become a little more difficult now
Yeah.
that they've started adding more.
Yeah, opening
But,
it up too.
yeah.
But it's nice to see that some of the merit badges earned are really are you know, with the times, technology based. You know, when you talk about digital photography, computers and things of that sort.
Geocaching,
Yeah, you're not
yeah.
just Boy Scouts is not just around sitting around a campfire. That's
No.
for sure.
No.
So we talked a little bit in the first segment about that big thing coming up in September. I want to talk about fundraising a little
Okay.
bit because that's one of the major ways that you're able to
Sure.
to pay for things with the Scouts. So talk about that in a little bit more detail and some other stuff you have
Sure.
coming up.
Our council's budget is a little over $5 million, and a lot of that's all individual and corporate donations that help get us there. A lot of the Scouts earn their own way, and that's something that we work on a lot with the youth. They earn their way to camp, and part of the way they do that is selling popcorn. They'll be doing that this fall, and it's a huge organizational thing. Last year we got to deal with the ice storm, so this year
boy,
we're
yeah,
all
what a
hoping.
challenge that was. Huh?
It was, and
Yeah.
it came right in the middle of the.
Did that affect you? Obviously,
I
adversely.
think it did.
Right? Yeah.
A lot of the camper ships that we saw this year were kids that normally would have been able to make their own way selling popcorn that needed the help this year. So
Yeah.
popcorn helps a lot of kids go to camp. Our big one that we've got coming up now is September 29th. We talked about it a little bit a couple minutes ago. It's called Over the Edge, and we rappel off of, I think it's Riverfront Plaza in Omaha. Or not Omaha, in
That's
Hartford.
a ways off. Yeah.
My old stomping
Yeah.
grounds in Hartford, and it overlooks the river there. 17-story building, and it's just you feel like you meet your maker as you're going over the edge. And
But that adrenaline rush that you probably get from it, though.
it is. And last year when I did it, I leaned over and I had to lead the way to do it, and it was
Wow.
just
Wow.
it's quite an experience when you're standing over the edge. And
That's going to probably get a lot of media attention too, I would imagine.
it does,
Right? Yeah.
and it's just one of those that it's part of the reason we do it,
Yeah.
and it's part to give kids that ultimate experience that they've never had. So we form teams for corporations and individuals, and it's almost like a walkathon of pledging for going over the edge and sponsor team members and go from there.
How much do corporate sponsorships come into play? Companies, is that a big thing for you?
They are.
Yeah.
They are. We've got some really great backers that have really contributed a lot to the Scouts to help us continue on. And whether it's sponsors for the Distinguished Citizens event that we do each year, or if it's just sponsoring things at camp, taking care of maintenance on our tractors and things like that. It's
Yeah.
just, it all helps out.
There's a lot of things that can slip through the cracks and are needed that people don't maybe think about or isn't top of mind that need things.
You just don't think about
Yeah.
some of the stuff that camps need to keep going. New tires for trucks, and oil changes, and belts, and
Yeah.
air conditioning and reefer units have to be recharged every year to get the camp's kitchens going, and that's all needed materials.
Right. But nobody, people don't think about that, but it's an absolute necessity.
Yeah.
So, what are the day-to-day duties of the Scout Executive? Scout Executive is sort of like a nicer word, I guess, a less corporate word than like maybe CEO. Is that basically what it is?
That's exactly what it
Okay.
is. My primary responsibility is to the board of directors.
I know you go over buildings, but that's
I do that occasionally. But mine's mainly to watch the budget and make
Okay.
sure that the funding's there to keep the program going so the kids can keep doing what they do.
Are you a big fundraiser yourself? I mean, is that part of
I
it?
am.
Yeah.
That's been a big part of
Yeah.
my career coming up through. So I've worked for the Scouts for 33 years now.
Wow, that's
so,
amazing. So,
yeah.
you mentioned Omaha, so you were in Nebraska before Connecticut?
Yeah, I worked for the national staff out of Dallas. I was assigned to upstate New York. I've been in Omaha, Lincoln, Nebraska, Dubuque, Iowa, Kansas City.
Now, these opportunities that open up, do they offer them to you? Do you see them and say, I'd like to, it's a new challenge, a new opportunity, I'd like to go there? Are you willingly relocate?
Yeah, it somewhat works like that. We've got a personnel department, and they will meet with the board of directors here and say, what are you looking for in your next Scout Executive? And they'll put together kind of a job summary of what they would like to see in the new person. This council brought in 3 candidates to interview, and I was selected.
Well, I mean, it obviously helped that you've been in Scouts for 34 years, right?
Yeah,
So, I mean, you're one of them.
Yes.
You know, you're their people. You came up.
Be
right?
an Eagle,
Yeah,
yes.
You were an Eagle Scout?
Yes, sir.
Wow, congratulations on that. And you started out as a Cub Scout?
Yes.
Wow. There's nobody else for this job than you, right?
That's what I thought. But,
Are you noticing, are there any differences, maybe, probably culturally, in states that you go to when you transfer and you go to a new place, or anything different about the Scouts in general, about their likes or dislikes or what they do?
You know, each community is a little different as far as what's available to them.
Right.
And we even see that here in Connecticut from the kids that are in downtown Hartford or downtown New London.
Right.
It's just a different what they need versus the kids that are in the rural. They're in that camping group all the time, and one of their outings may be staying at the hotel downtown and touring the Capitol.
Completely opposite.
Yeah, and it's just finding what those kids need and supplementing it any way you can. And our leaders are really good at that. I know one group, they go into the city and take the train down and do the museums, and there's a trail that they do while they're down there. And it's just, that's their experience and scouting adventure, and they address it just like you would a camp out of how are you going to plan it, what's the stops you're going to get off on, and what are you going to do, and what's it going to cost, and put the trip together.
What could be next for you? If you're a Scout executive now, is there anything else for you, or would you just go to a new location eventually and just
new locations? But I'm not looking.
Yeah.
Throughout my entire career, I've just done my job the best I can.
Yeah.
And those opportunities come to you. You don't.
What's the biggest challenge for you these days?
Funding's always a challenge.
Especially in the economy that we're in.
It
now.
has.
Yeah.
That's been a challenge for us. There seems to be some light at the end of the tunnel right now. There's some good things coming.
Yeah.
And it's interesting in that when the economy goes, the charities that have been around and are stable, we've got 101 years now of tradition now, those seem to fare better through these tougher times.
You find that people are still willing to dig into their wallets and purses and be able to give individuals? I think so. I've noticed that too.
A lot more heartfelt gifts are coming of, we figure other donations are down right now, this is the time you need us.
What happens, what's going on with the Scouts around the holiday season?
We do scouting for food and collect for the food banks to help out there. Other holidays, it's kicking off the New Year's and moving through. A lot of units are looking at how they're putting together their budgets for the following year.
Yeah.
Get through those.
You got to sit at the desk once in a while and do that kind of work, right? Yeah.
That's kind of what I do.
Yeah. There you go. And come on TV shows too.
And come on TV shows.
Let's give the website out one more time so people can go and learn.
ctrivers.com.
Simple website, and then again, you can go there and glean it down to locally if you want to.
Exactly. Yes.
Stephen Smith, Scout Executive for Boy Scouts of Connecticut Rivers Council. Pleasure having you on the show today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
And thank you for joining us for another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. We will see you next time. Take care.